What's good, lads and ladies? My name's Chance, and welcome to Shared Screens week-by-week review / whatever you want to call it of The Last of Us TV show on HBO. Joining me today, I have Alec Bobko.
Hello.
Alec, what did you think of the episode?
Oh, I loved it. Like, this show is everything I could have ever hoped it could have been. Like,
Heck yeah.
I literally just tweeted out, "Bravo, HBO or Last of Us, bravo," and like a standing ovation gif just because it was damn near perfect.
Hell yeah. What is your experience with the games, just as like, or with the Last of Us franchise as a whole?
Played both games. Played the first one, I want to say within a year or two after it launched, and then obviously was in the zeitgeist of part 2, and actually went to Left Behind quite a bit later. I think it was before part 2 came out when I replayed through part 1 again.
Hell yeah. Joining me today is also Brett. How we doing, Jim Tasty?
Hook 'em horns, baby. Austin, Texas. Let's go.
Is that a football reference?
Yeah, it is.
Thank you.
Brett, what did you think of the episode?
I loved it. I thought the acting was phenomenal. I thought like the set design and some of the visuals were great. There was a couple of things where like I struggled with separating like the way the game plays out some of the events versus like the show. And so like it wasn't like necessarily a bad thing, but it was just like, oh wait, it happens like this way or in this like visual setting, and it happens like a little bit differently. So I just had to grapple with that. But I mean, overall, I enjoyed it like immensely. Yeah. Hell
yeah. And then what is your experience with the games or the franchise?
So I actually co-created the game.
Nice.
So I never was really a PlayStation guy growing up, and I remember getting the game with like my PS4 in 2015. I didn't play it because I was playing other games, and then during the quarantine, ironically, I had a lot of extra time on my hands. I was starting to stream and stuff like that, so I played through the first one in 2020, and then played the second one a year later. So I'm definitely like newer to the franchise.
Dope. Also joining us, we got Jordan. Jordan, what did you think of the episode? How you doing?
I'd say that like my little stinger of this episode, that like HBO, if you want to put this on when you open the app, like under Entertainment Weekly, like go ahead. It would be the reason why the game that came out in September was called Part 1 and not Director's Cut, is because this is the Director's Cut. That's kind of how I feel about it. I'm really, really happy seeing what we've seen. I like the little expansions. It's so accurate that dumb changes actually have stood out to me more that I am interested in. But fantastic all the way around. Like, good job to everyone involved with this, both behind the scenes and on camera.
Dope. Love to hear it. And then you've played the games, correct?
Yeah, so I played the first one in 2016, so a little bit later than it came out. And then I kept saying I'd get back to Left Behind, but we all know what we do when we take a game out of the console. Like, we never get back to it. So then I played Part 2. Loved it. Played that one like the day I started. Day came out. I remember beating it actually on the 4th of July. So like really ran through that one fast. Played Part 1 again this year, and we did do a review on that. If you guys want to check out that video, and that was actually the first time I played Left Behind. So
hell yeah,
I kind of encompassed all of it at this point.
Some would say the best part of Part 1, but who am I to judge?
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty fucking good.
And
good 3-4 hour.
Yeah, it's a perfect DLC for sure. And then we have Lee Aaron. Lee Aaron, how are you doing this evening?
First off, I apologize for any rain ambiance you might hear coming through my microphone. It is currently pouring rain outside, and thunder in California is drowning.
It's helping, like, with the immersion from the ending of the episode.
Truly. Oh my god, I know. That, like, when you started, I was like, oh, this is what it's like outside.
Yeah, this is IRL for me.
Yeah, I told them before you hopped on that, like, I get stress hives when I'm nervous, and, like, you can't really see them on the camera, but I have stress hives all over my neck.
Oh, no.
Like, from the show, like, the truck, well, no, they introduced the old people, and I immediately was like, this is going to be a bad time for me.
So
this is going to be scary.
So did you enjoy the episode then?
Oh my god, I loved it.
Okay, so perfect. Good. And then you haven't had any experience with The Last of Us, correct?
I've watched playthroughs, like, when it was, like, when it came out and was really popular and people were doing playthroughs on Twitch, I watched that, but it's worlds above my skill set as a gamer, so I have never played them myself. However, my best friend says it's the only franchise who that makes him feel, so I've also watched him play it a bunch.
So you have like some knowledge of it, haven't ever
Yeah.
played, but you like know like the broad strokes of everything, kind more or less.
My best note on like what my experience was is I wrote a note that was like, I'm deeply attached to Tess and I don't remember the gameplay well enough to know if this is going to end badly for me.
Perfect. That's
Like,
exactly
that
where we want
sums it
you.
up.
That's exactly where we want you.
I was your best friend.
Oh my God, the tea's getting
So
spilt right now.
sorry.
All right, real quick, I loved this opening. I also had some just kind of some initial sticker shock at some of the changes they made. I thought it was beautifully integrated, and like I think Jordan put it, kind of expanding what we know about The Last of Us. I actually borrowed my buddy's PS3 in like 2014, 2013 to play it, and then I was about to buy a PS3 and the PS4 got announced, and I immediately played it again on remastered. I love this series. It's goated. Awesome. And then before we continue on, if you enjoy what you're hearing or any of this, we do other shows. We just recently had a Bad Batch kind of series premiere breakdown that just went up. We have a lot of gaming content. So if you like The Last of Us, we actually have like, I forgot who said it. We have reviewed that recently. So check out that stuff. Real quick to get into the spoiler territory, we are going to cover show spoilers only, so only the episode or only up to where the show is gone. Going forward, we won't talk about any of that stuff until the end of the episode. So at the very end of the episode, we will say toodaloo to Liaren, and we'll kind of talk about our game knowledge and what we think the next couple episodes might hold. But we are going into spoiler territory. Any like immediate thoughts now having that veil lifted? Anything that like jumped out? What's up?
Also, so yeah, if you like it, like it, share it, all that stuff. If you hate it, send it to your worst enemy. Send this video to your worst enemy.
I like that. I like that. If you truly hated it, let your worst enemy know the kind of content you think they'd enjoy.
On the show, So I know the opening of the game really well. I think everybody knows the opening of the game really, really well. I liked that we got to see more of the relationship between Joel, Tommy, and Sarah. Not that the game like cuts it short, but like we don't get to kind of see what their everyday life was like before this. We're just kind of dropped into the worst night of their lives.
It's like 20 minutes as the opening is all. It's very, very quick.
Yeah.
If that, I think it's real quick. Like you're basically right into the city scenario like real quick.
Yeah.
It starts where she's on the couch and he comes in from work and she gives him the watch. So like everything before that, brand new.
Which go ahead, Liaren.
Jordan, what was the watch shopkeeper? What was she saying to her husband?
Oh, he was like, we don't close till 7. And she goes, I've been on the phone. You don't know what's going on right now. Something along those lines.
Oh my God. That's
more
awesome.
Me not remembering the line rather than my Arabic being iffy. It's just like, yeah, but it was something along that. But yeah, when I saw the
I
flag
literally
and heard
wrote
the
down,
music.
ask Jordan.
Yeah.
We got the insider track here. I really enjoyed that whole little scene and like seeing the kid twitching at school, really like kind of building up that this is something that like was kind of going on, but it's in 2003. And then you see like you didn't see the kid twitching in class.
No, I thought
Like
they
the
were
gold
setting after.
thing.
Yeah, I saw the bracelet, but after they showed her taking the money from her dad's drawer, and then they showed the bracelet, I thought they were gonna give Sarah a kleptomaniac storyline for some fucking reason, and so I just thought she was noticing this girl's bracelet.
They were gonna somehow
Yeah, I
end
just
before.
thought that they were like throwing in like that she had like a kleptomania thing. I don't know.
That's why
did.
Joel thinks it's okay to raid and pillage like later in life.
You're right though, Liaren. She did steal money from her dad, so.
Yeah, and I didn't understand why at first because I forgot about the scene with the watch, so like I didn't really understand what she was doing.
I thought that.
Say
Go ahead, Alec.
I was just gonna say before kind of all that, I really enjoyed that whole like talk show back in the 60s.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Late 60s.
And John Hannah from the 1990s masterpiece The Mummy. Yeah.
Yes.
Dude, big head, man, from Silicon Valley. Let's go, dude.
Yeah, I just thought it was kind of a cool look because like in the game they kind of give you just like clips of like radio stuff, some like newspaper headlines, kind of that beginning where they're showing like the credits. And here you just get this whole like, yeah, no, viruses aren't gonna be the death of us. It's gonna be, yeah, fungi. And they're just like, if we just get slightly warmer, it could happen.
Yeah.
That scene was really cool to me because I think it does a good job at explaining that these aren't just zombies. It does a really good job at explaining the science behind the runner or the people really quick, while also establishing like, yeah, hey, this is probably because of climate change, because everything is, as well as like the whole thing of like, scientists talk about these hypotheticals all the time, and just because there's an interview of a scientist from 20 years ago talking about like a airborne, upper respiratory infection doesn't mean that COVID was planned. Like, it's just kind of like, you say enough shit, throw enough shit at the wall, something's gonna stick.
100%. What's up, Leanne?
I have a quick question. This is one of the things that I don't remember. In the game, is it 2003?
No.
They don't. They just say present day.
No,
Okay,
it's canonically 2013 though,
Yeah.
because that's when the game came out, and then in part 2 you see people have like
I mean, when Sarah dies.
Sarah,
Yeah, 2013.
Okay.
And then it jumped
They shifted
20 years.
They shifted it back like 10 years in this show to align the
With
current
2023,
time with
yeah.
where we're at now versus in the game it's like 2030 something.
yeah.
Then I do have to say, I really appreciate the writers having Sarah as like an added thing when they're in the car driving away, having Sarah go, is this terrorists? Because they gave us a good old shot of George W. Bush.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
This is like 2 years after 9/11, and like that they had already talked about the fear of airborne illnesses, and then there was like this fear about airborne like fungi and powders and all this stuff after 9/11, and then the sarin gas thing that happened in the 90s in Japan. Like everybody, like I just thought that was like a really cool like part to add to it.
I didn't even
because
catch
it
that. That is really good.
feeds- Yeah, it
Well, 'cause
really
they had
feeds
the-
like
Desert Storm sticker on the back of the truck.
yeah.
I did see the combat vet thing, which I thought was an interesting touch to add to. I felt like just Tommy's character. I wasn't sure if Joel was a combat veteran, but I feel like it
Right.
explains
I
how
really
they're so
wanted to be
proficient
Tommy.
so well. What's that?
It explains a lot about both of them.
I really want it to be Tommy because I really want them to go down this, like, I don't want to get too deep into spoilers, but like him going from being like a military man in Desert Storm to being
Who
against Joel,
yeah.
however Joel phrased it to
He is like a freedom fighter
like-
type, and then
Yeah.
like to eventually where we find him and everything. It does make sense if he was the veteran, why he would join the Fireflies, like they talked about. Marlene like recruited him and everything, so it would make sense like him having that kind of like helping people mindset, if you will. Kind of moving along, so we get
I
the.
just wanted to
Oh,
say
go ahead.
one more thing about it being in 03. It kind of upsets me because that means that when season 2 comes along, they don't get to use future days.
Ah, that's right. Fuck. That was because they barely scooted by with
Neil
like
Neil Druckmann got so lucky they uploaded that song like months earlier before
Yeah.
that album came out. That he has an excuse, and now it's gonna. They just don't get to use the song.
Yeah, it can be an Ellie original. Kind of continuing forward, they make the cookies. The elder's grandma starts acting strange, and then we cut to.
fuck
not
old
like that.
ladies.
Yeah.
Fuck scary old ladies.
Well,
The
it's like
second
she's like
she
reaching
I
for the
knew it.
movie.
Well,
Yeah,
She's here like
when
twitching
she
in the
started
background.
twitching, it looked like it. In It Part 2, there's a fucking old lady who goes after Jessica Chastain, and I mean, that old lady's nude. I appreciated this one wasn't. But, like,
she
no.
only had a muumuu. She was close. Like she was. You bet she was free balling under there.
Dude, as soon as I saw that old lady, I was like, okay, like someone's gonna go down with her.
But I do love in the game they talk about the alders. I forget what they actually called the neighbors, but they talk about how they had to go into the city to the hospital, and like having that actually like expanding that I thought was really good. We see the plane flying overhead, and then we cut to Joel getting home. It's 10 o'clock. He doesn't have a cake. She gives him, and I sold hardcore drugs. Gave me cold chills because that was like that line, the
for
way she
line, yeah.
moved and everything straight out of it.
Line for line.
What kind of vibes
Bar
were you
for
getting?
bar.
Because this is like where the game starts. What kind of, for the game veterans, what were you guys thinking?
Up to what point?
Like this is where the game technically starts, is like this scene and kind of seeing like the direct comparisons, because everything before it was kind of expanding what we knew, but then like this is actually like meat and potatoes, really where we get to learn Joel and Sarah for the first time. Did you guys think that they did like a really good job? Do you think it was too close in mirroring what the games had like set up?
I personally loved how close it felt. Like really there's two things that stand out to me that were changes, and one is that being Tommy needing to be bailed out of jail, whereas in the game he just calls, he goes, I'm coming over, shit's going down. But I think this is going to add a layer to the Joel and Tommy dynamic that could be really cool. Them in the car in the back of the van, especially us kind of seeing it through Sarah's point of view, which is like what the game does for those first kind of 30 minutes or so. A lot of sense. The line for line of, that's Jimmy's house, we need to stop for them, they have a kid, so do we. Something that stood out to me as a very small but dumb change, but I think is just like, to me, looking into it, seems a little bit weird, is that Sarah's not in her pajamas when this all goes down. Because I feel like there is something to be said about the fact that like this is just a child that was woken up out of bed. She's in pajama pants. She's literally barefoot in the game. Whereas like here she has the jeans and shoes on, and I feel like, again, it's really not, that doesn't change all that much, but it's something that like I think when you see that image of her in her sleeping clothes really adds to just how fucked up the whole situation is.
I think the situation was plenty fucked up, and I felt some reworking of this whole scene to kind of it's a different time now, and so like to kind of not draw too much like parallels to like current life events. That's where I was kind of like reading into it, because I feel like they weren't trying to make it a statement or anything, but like to kind of get into future.
There's a choice you make when you make Sarah a young black girl.
Yeah,
like, there's a choice that's made there.
Yeah, and anyway, I do think the imagery of a father holding his daughter in her pajamas is much stronger, but I also feel like that scene was so emotional already. I just don't know if that was like the extra seasoning that they wanted to put on it, but I do. And the translation was really good. One of the kind of themes that I noticed, and I'm curious if you guys did, was making Joel less of a piece of shit. Because in the game, he's kind of like, he doesn't talk to Tommy, and then anyway, we can talk about that later. But have you guys noticed how they, like, this is the first scene where I kind of noticed that they really started writing him just like a couple degrees away from the Joel that we know from the game. Go ahead, Lyrian.
I will say, as somebody who has only ever watched people play the game, I liked that they made him like a little bit softer, because it let me fall in love with Pedro Pascal. Is so easy to fall in love with because he's just a very like charismatic kind of like guy. And then letting me fall in love with it, like Sarah dying in the game is very, very sad, but this like it's brutal. Him moving, and like then when they flash back to it later, it was brutal. And so having that, like, letting him be not really an asshole, he's just a single dad who's really trying his best, just kind of made it hit it made the way they scripted him saying I know to her took on a very like, I don't know, it makes Joel, when you see him later on, way sadder to watch, because then the next time we see him, he's picking up a child's body and throwing it in a fire like it's fucking nothing.
Yeah.
And like that made that change really brutal.
Yeah.
Wait, so you said they made him more of an asshole?
They made him less of a piece of shit for the show.
Okay.
I do think it's more endearing. You actually start to feel for this character a lot quicker than you do in the games, because in the games it takes quite a bit longer for him to kind of wear off on you. I do think it, like, him still having that bit of humanity already makes him more of a protagonist, if that makes sense.
I also, really quick, I don't mean to make a joke out of this. It was a very serious episode, but Pedro Pascal bashing an old lady's face in with a wrench was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yo,
I just needed to be noted.
He full sent it on that broad's face, and she did not recover.
And snapped to the side so quickly.
This is why I kind of disagree that they make him less of an asshole in the TV, because in the game, fucking shoots her, and that is a lot less personal than a wrench to the face.
Okay, but also I liked that it was like Tommy's going, "What do we do? What do we do?" And it just felt like a panic reaction. It
Yeah.
felt like somebody's lunging at me, like
Yeah.
I'm just swinging, and then you hear his neighbor go, "Joel, what the hell?"
Yeah.
It's like, no, like I just, it felt like just like a panic reaction from somebody that like, again, is truly having the worst night of his fucking life right now. Like,
Well,
And on
something that I thought was interesting was that you even hear like Joel be like, "You get back," like yelling at her, like the neighbor, like,
Get back
"Hey,
in the
you
house."
get back in the house, lock all the doors, don't answer to anybody."
And then they
Like-
come out into the street and immediately get snatched.
and like it's
Mhm.
what I like about them changing it from being like where I disagree with you a little bit, Jordan, and I like them changing it to be that Tommy got arrested, rather than he's just like shit's going crazy and I came over. Was we get that okay? This just started happening in a bar because like you can assume this bar fight that started happened because the guy was infected,
Yeah.
and then he adds in and you hear all the screaming in the background and him saying that the jail is a madhouse. Because like all I could think of is like imagine if suddenly a jail had an influx of people on bath salts. Like how fucking nuts that would be for you as like a casual like I got arrested
just
for
a holding
killing
cell
a
for a
woman.
dumb bar fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so like what have it I like that they didn't show it to you too, because then when they got out of the car and Joel's like get in the truck, I'm automatically doing like worst case scenario of what they just saw at the jailhouse that they were like, we have to go get her. We're not getting anything out of the house. We're just getting her and leaving.
Yeah.
Like,
I
yeah.
I don't want to hang up too much on it. I do think that there's kind of situations later in the episode that I'm kind of pointing to him being less of an asshole, but we'll talk about it when we get there. So we've kind of already discussed it, but the whole soldier scene plays out. The scene that Last of Us is most known for, makes me cry every time. Big old fucking crocodile tear welled up, even watching it now. And I knew what was going to happen for the fucking 45 minutes leading up to it.
Why my eyeliner is fucked up.
And then we immediately cut to a kid walking up to the Boston QZ, limping a little bit, and he makes it to the gate and collapses. We then see them take him inside. The girl realizes something's amiss. They give him a test. It comes back a color. She gets, you can see some stuff kind of going on, but then she immediately is happy, reassures the kid, tells him all the things that this kid needs to hear, and then they inject it. The next scene is Joel then being asked to put this dead child into a burn pit so I can't remember. It showed red, right? Like the kid was infected. Okay, just wanted to
Yeah.
double check. I thought that
How fucked up would it be if it didn't?
that's what, like, I couldn't remember if it was red for a second. I was pretty sure it was red, but I feel like that's some like QZ stuff they talk about in the games, like something that they would pull.
Well, and then when we see the body again, the kid's hands are bound and there's a hood over his head. It's so like I got confused for a second too because I didn't understand why they would have like bounded his hands if they'd given him something to kill him. So like I get it.
Yeah. It was trying to say a lot, but I think we were reading too into it instead of just like taking for what it was.
Did
I didn't
anyone
get it
think-
until the end of the episode.
See, I thought that the first woman that they show that then looks at the kid and goes, "Oh, I can't do this," and has Joel do it. I thought it was gonna be that was the kid's mother, and that's how she was gonna find out about her child. And so I was prepping myself for like the worst thing to ever imagine, and I was like, okay.
That's what The Last of Us has in store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that it just cuts to this person has what is clearly a child's pillowcase over its head.
Yeah.
It just made it very like, ooh,
Yeah.
ooh.
Nobody's safe in this world. So kind of continuing on, we then see Joel pulling some side deals. He doesn't want to be, not only does he not want to be throwing dead kids into the fire, he's willing to clean up shit instead. And then we see him kind of doing some side business with a Fedra agent, selling him some pills for a lot of cards and some cigarettes, right? I kind of liked this new little addition. It felt more personal later in the episode when we get to those events. Kind of one of the things that I thought was jarring at the beginning, but then I liked it. And then I can't remember what comes first, if it's Tess's scene or Ellie's scene. I'm pretty sure it's Tess being held by Robert.
Yeah.
And she's talked herself free. When a bomb goes off, it's the Fireflies. She gets arrested because Fedra's showing up to kill the Fireflies. Kind of where we're at in the story is before the jump officially happened, so it's kind of another period of kind of filling in some gaps. Was there anything that kind of stood out to you guys, like in these added sequences to give context for later sequences?
Cast is fantastic.
The cast?
I just have to say the actress playing Tess is
Tess.
fucking
Oh,
phenomenal.
for sure, definitely,
She's
definitely.
so good.
Yeah.
I didn't remember Tess from the game until I was looking up who she was supposed to be playing because I was like, why don't I remember who this is? Like, the actress playing her is so, like, we'll talk about it as we get further into the episode too, but, like, she is so good.
Hell yeah. I really enjoyed her performance as well. Go ahead, Alec.
I really enjoyed the whole like side part that like Joel had going on, just because like you kind of see in the game like they're into some shady stuff. So it's just getting more context into that side of things to help actually get them by and get them out of the QZ. So
Yeah.
that was cool seeing that whole side of things.
I agree, and it did. In the game, I wasn't quite sure what he was up to besides smuggling, and maybe that's the only thing he
Yeah.
had in the game. But I did think it kind of lended to his character that he actually was contributing as well as doing these deals on the side. Like he wasn't just a flagrant member of society. Did you have something to say, Brett? Sorry.
Oh no, yeah, I was gonna add on just in terms of fleshing out the character and the world of the show with just because like it's kind of implied in the game, but you don't really see it. But like just seeing Tess and Joel like in the bed together, like you kind of like knew that was going on, but you never really get to explore that in the game because the game jumps from one plotting immediately goes into like the main plot. So with the side deals that we kind of get alluded to in the game, you get to see it. Same thing with this relationship.
Jordan, what did you think about Joel being Little Spoon?
It was cute.
I really enjoyed that he was Little
Yeah,
Spoon. I'm not gonna lie.
Sometimes you just want to be the little spoon, and if they're shorter than you, then it's just called jetpacking. You know? It's fine.
Yeah, but it's also when, as somebody who is a foot shorter, like, it's hard. It's not comfortable.
Nothing lines up. Like your face is in like the
Yeah.
middle of his back.
Or, like, my knees are, like, for me to be up behind your head, my knees are, like, inside your asshole. Like, it's just, it doesn't
Hey,
work.
hey, no kink shaming here on Jersey.
Oh my god.
God. Oh, God.
All right, so then we get Veronica being held captive by the Fireflies. They make her count to 10, and immediately Veronica is acting like Veronica from the games. Just beautiful. We're not spoiling who she is just yet because it's funner, right? She doesn't know why she's being held there, yada yada. I'm trying to figure out where... Okay, so then we see Joel take the cigarettes and the cards and bypass this huge long line, and we find out that he's working to get back to Tommy. This is what I mean by them kind of softening him up from the games. He didn't give a fuck about what Tommy was doing in the games, giving him this goal of trying to get back with his brother because of that brotherly love, and they haven't talked for years, I thought really does a lot of heavy lifting for Joel as a character to make him more endearing, because there is that. But it also gives him something else to do, which I think was kind of lacking from the games. He didn't want to partake in this adventure just because he was an asshole. Now he has something that he needs to do instead. Did anybody have anything specific about this kind of sequence and the changes that they made from the game that they wanted to talk about? Go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, because that was definitely a big little shift that I was like, okay, like interesting, and I don't like. I know this is like lame to say, but like I don't feel any other way about it. Like I'm like, okay, only for the fact that it's just smart to tie in a motivation for Joel, aside from the whole Ellie plot. So
Yeah.
I thought it was just smart to, because again, this is aimed at a different audience than the people who played the game. So giving the main character a motivation to do this quest, this mission beyond just selflessly helping somebody, I thought was smart.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I was kind of there with you, like kind of seeing why they did it, and I really appreciated the reasons that they did it.
I also will say...
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
They did a really good job at... Like we said, I'm not super familiar with the game. They did a really good... I don't have any questions. Like, I fully understand, like, what's happening, like, what the fungus does, why it's bad, how we got... Like, I understand everything that's going on without having played the game part, which I feel like is what a lot of pitfalls of video game movies fall into, is, like, if you've never played the game, you know, like, it's a terrible adaptation for a lot of reasons, but I've never played Doom, and then I watched the movie, and I also did not understand the movie because I thought Doom was about hell, and it turns out it's not. And they don't do a good job of explaining it.
That-
But here, like,
That is one thing I thought was especially kind of like really special about that beginning 70s scene of kind of like explaining. They mention what cordyceps are, so you know it's a fungus, and they talk about how it affects ants. So like in a very nonchalant way, they kind of give you the breakdown in a very digestible kind of precursor to the whole series.
yeah, and like I don't mean to make comparisons to Mando because they already exist, but like when my parents started watching Mando, I had to explain a bunch of stuff to them about like Clone Wars and all this shit. They watched this and like totally understood what was happening. I didn't have to
hell yeah.
explain anything to them. They like fully understood what was going on.
Hell yeah, it is really
Next
good.
step should be we get your dad a PS4.
Something tells me he'll love it. Go ahead, Alec.
I was say, and the dude that was like operating the radio kind of had that Jeff Goldblum look. And vibe to
Yo,
him.
for sure.
It's cute.
I really wanted to have a drink with him. Not, and it was one son, not the other one, but the smart one. I thought that was the best line.
Like,
Okay,
this was very funny.
I was just gonna say that.
Joe Miller was a very funny line.
What was the funny line? Sorry.
They're going up the ladder, and he's talking about, he's like, oh, like they remodeled these buildings back in the 80s, going on this whole thing about construction, and Ted just goes, construction corner with Joe Miller.
That was really.
that was something. That was something I actually noticed too. Is that they actually had some real funny like lines or like jabs in this episode.
The 7, 8, 9, 10 fuck you was really, really good. I appreciated that.
Yeah, like,
So then we get back to the apartment. Joel pulls out the floorboards, gets his maps out, maps a line to where he needs to go to visit Tommy in Wyoming, where the radio tower is. He takes some pills, drinks some whiskey, goes to sleep. Like we said, Tess comes in. They kind of explain the plan that Robert had sold their battery. So they're going to go find Robert. They immediately embark, and once they make it to Robert's hideout, no, something else happens first. So as they embark, we've cut over to Marlene, and Marlene is talking to the Fireflies. They're kind of upset because they don't know what's going on. They don't know why they're in the city, or why she's in the city at least, and this kid. And the rest of them leave. It's to two leaders talking, Marlene and I forget the other woman's name, but they're going back and forth, and she tells her a secret, and she can't tell anybody, and it kind of leaves us on a cliffhanger. She then goes and talks to Veronica, and Veronica states that's her name, and they have this little back and forth, and she gives her back her backpack. Immediately, Veronica pulls out her knife. Marlene kind of lets her know, hey, I'm on to you. I know you're Ellie. I'm the one that put you in the orphanage to keep you safe. And then she imparts that same piece of wisdom she just told the leader to Ellie as we cut to Joel and Tess making it to Robert's hideout. And everybody's dead. Robert, nice old big bullet hole right in his cheek. Loved it. Another thing that they kind of changed in the games, it really speedlined the whole process. But my least favorite part of the entire first video game is when Joel breaks the fucker's arm. I've broken my arm, and it always reminds me of that moment when Joel breaks Robert's arm in the game. Not having that in this really made me happy. I don't know if everybody else feels the same way, but I thought having them all kind of meet at the same place really like took way too much fluff out of the story. Go ahead, Alec.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was just a little jarring, just because how quick it was like going through that like underground like kind of, I guess, pathway to.
I think they said it was
the
a
hideout.
subway.
Yeah,
Subway tunnel.
but it was just one of those like, because I don't know, just me just thinking of the game. It's like, okay, then you were getting to this long like firefight of ways to get to Robert, and you have that like foot race to get to him.
You're running through
then-
the building and everything.
And then it's just like they literally just like open the side passage, and like I was expecting them to like walk through something and then get somewhere and find him, but then it's like, oh wait, just open it. Oh, he's right here. So it was just kind of a little jarring. That was just like, oh, just like right
Yeah.
there.
I don't remember. You saying this made me remember what the details were. I could tell that this part was changed, but I couldn't remember like in what order or what way. I do think that this was almost a missed opportunity for them to show how good the gun combat is going to be from here on out when compared to the game, because like we got like the really cool scene in the truck, we got other stuff that is really similar to the game. It's also kind of bullshit that I have to fight those motherfuckers in the game and lose to them multiple times because I want to reserve my resources, but fucking Pedro Pascal gets to just waltz in there.
Yeah.
Also, another thought I had earlier, when that first runner is chasing him and Sarah, where the fuck are the runners in the games that don't know how to turn and crash into walls? We don't get those.
Yeah, but I did think the dude throwing himself all over the diner was like beautiful. Like, kudos to that
cool.
stuntman. You deserve an Oscar for that shit because that was putting your body on the line, like to secure the bag. I definitely wish they would have had him like crashing into walls and stuff, but that made it up for me.
And what's fun about that scene in the diner is, unfortunately, comparisons to The Walking Dead are going to happen because it's the only other big like zombie show that we've ever had. And in the first season, the zombies could run like that. And then that stopped and it lost all momentum. I'm very excited to see them just be scary. They're never not scary.
Yeah.
The clicker monsters are fucking terrifying at all times. Like when they're going through that subway system and they turn and Tess just yells because that body was not there before, like, was a fantastic moment because it's like, yeah, these are fucking terrifying. Like, this isn't like we've adapted. Like, no.
And these are going to be even like freakier than what we remember from the games because this is like live action, so they're going to look like
real.
more
And they're
fungusy
wet.
mushroom.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're wet.
Yeah.
Why? I don't like that they're wet.
That fungus has to have
everything
that
That they're
moisture.
trying to kill me.
Like when the things are coming out of her mouth, they were very wet, and like I really hate, like, I hate that. And they're very skin. Like when we did our Midnight Mass review, I talked about I hate monsters that are like very much like skin.
Yeah.
It just like it skeeves me out for some reason. It makes me think of
You're gonna have a bad
Hellraiser, and
time.
it just like really skeeves me out.
Yeah, I don't blame you on that. Brett, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I think with the whole Robert subplot, I thought it was super smart to streamline it, only because in the game, the way I view that whole segment is like primarily a tutorial in the combat, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
that's your first time you're like really fighting a bunch of dudes, and again, adapting a game to a movie, and I'm actually bringing this up like legit, but like Uncharted, like. In the games, Nathan Drake's like killing 8,000 people, and like in the movie, he doesn't get a gun until the end, and he only kills like 1 or 2 people. Just because if you do that in a movie like with live action, it's just gonna just play so differently than
You become a serial killer instead of the hero.
right. Seriously, it's just like with a different medium, and so I think having Joel, especially with his first kill later on in the episode, having it more meaning, and then like if you guys watch like the developer commentary, like the parallel, all that,
That was really
but,
cool.
like, but like, yeah, I think it was smart to not have him kill like 20 dudes, but still streamline it and then connect us with Marlene like faster.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. But I was just saying, just for me, like knowing the context from the game, it was just a little jarring, just knowing that we had that whole like
Right.
big part of the game just kind of cut out.
Yeah.
So I'm like, just me like trying to figure out where we were. It was just kind of like, oh, wait, we're already here.
For a show that I feel like I know it's coming at every corner, I really appreciate those moments where they do kind of take something and speedline it, or make it play out in a different situation to kind of give it a better meaning or a better understanding. Like I really like those moments because it's like the little bit of surprise like sprinkled throughout. So like I said, we stumbled upon Robert. Tess and the other leader are there. Tess has been shot. Immediately, Ellie jumps out of a doorway trying to stab Joel. Joel one-handed throws her into a wall, holds her knife down. They have an argument, and Marlene suggests that Joel take Ellie to the Capitol building. Immediately, without hesitation, Joel says no. And then him and Tess have a kind of a conversation, and immediately Tess is like, we'll do it. And the deal, if you will, is that they will get Ellie. We now know her name is Ellie. They will get Ellie to the Capitol building, and then Joel and Tess will get guns, trucks, whatever they need to get out to Wyoming, because Tess knows that he's trying to get to Tommy because it's her job to know things. I really like that there's kind of this more altruistic reason why Joel is trying to satisfy the Fireflies instead of it just being supplies, guns, or whatever it was to keep running or whatever. We then cut to them going to a hideout. Go ahead.
Real quick, I just want to say shout out to the line with Marlene. Is like she was like saying to the other leaders, like, "Shut up! You're missing an ear."
Yeah, that was
I didn't even notice that she was missing an ear until that close up.
I thought it was blood from Marlene. Like well, I saw the side of her head was bloody, but I thought it was like her trying to help up Marlene. She had gotten blood on her or something. But that was a really good
Just
line.
missing an ear.
I also enjoyed. You guys can have a discussion about this, but I'm bleeding out.
Yo, that.
Yes. Yep, that was another.
I
Yeah.
enjoyed that.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but the actress playing Marlene is also the voice actor for Marlene, right? Okay.
No, the performer, yeah, because I think they're doing all the motion capture too. So.
Okay, that's perfect because when I first saw her come on screen, I was like, "That's motherfucking Marlene." The exact
Yep, 'cause
outfit,
it literally is.
yeah, that makes so much more sense. I'm getting goose pimples thinking about it. So fucking dope.
I also love that Ellie is just a feral, what amounts to a violent feral kitten.
Yeah,
Brings me
Yeah.
so much joy. Like,
Well, like
I-
Tess says, anyone born after the outbreak doesn't know how to argue. They just know how to throw hands.
which also fantastic line.
Yeah.
because, like, I guess I knew this, but it had never clicked before that, yeah, Ellie was born after, like,
several years. Like it was
Yeah,
well
like-
into the yeah, the
so
outbreak.
this is the only world she's ever known, and like that had never clicked for me before watching this, and I just like that she's this feral little monster. Like, it's hilarious.
She's this feral little monster, but the second they get her outside, she's like, "I can't believe I'm outside." And they have to pull her down because she's gonna get shot.
That's why I feel like it's like a feral kitten. is
Yeah.
Because like it's angry and thinks it can do damage, but it kind of can, and also sometimes like its curiosity really gets the better of it.
See, the other example I'm gonna make is it's kind of like Stewie from Family Guy. How like 90% of the time it is a genius ready to kill his mother, but then sometimes they'll do stuff to remind you that he's still a baby.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like Ellie's just like a kid's like, oh, I've never been outside.
And Bella Ramsey,
Which is also
absolutely killing it as Ellie. By
doing
the everybody across the board acting has been like perfect, pitch perfect
there
across the board. Go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say it threw me off at the end, like because they do the whole like behind the scenes look of the episode, when both the actors for Sarah and Bella and Ellie just like had completely different accents.
Yeah.
from their characters.
Yeah, they're both British. What the fuck?
Oh
Yeah.
my god, so ashamed they're infected.
damn, son. What are you gonna say, Brett?
Oh yeah, like it was scary how much they sounded like Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson or Johnson.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And again, it's only one episode. We'll see how it goes throughout the show. But I want to make a comparison to like the Solo movie, where like
This is gonna be good.
Yeah, this is gonna be real good. Everybody, listen up.
or like I felt like they were like in this show, I felt like they brought enough of their own goods to the role, versus where like more so with Alden Ehrenreich with Solo, and a little bit with Donald Glover, honestly, where it felt like they were like emulating,
Miming almost.
yeah, like the previous actors who played Billy D. Williams and Harrison Ford, obviously. So I
That's
thought this was what.
That's actually a really good point. Continue. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, just because in Solo and like Donald Glover is like, hey, I'm like, okay, like you're trying to.
I mean,
you're trying to be.
I think-
Like,
I think that's a little different because that is a prequel
Yeah.
as opposed to an adaptation.
I get what he's talking about though, where it's like it's too
Like,
mean. We know these
existing-
characters. Yeah.
There's an
I'm
analogy
not
there.
laughing at you, but you made that A noise, and then I just saw Donald Glover entering and making the Greg Miller Watto.
Hey.
Yeah.
yeah, there's a difference there with the prequel and an adaptation, but it's still it's still
It's characters that we know and love being portrayed by somebody else, and kind of seeing the way that the two sets of actors handled it or were told to handle it. And I do actually really agree with you on that, where they bring enough of their own role where it's like it's translated 100%, even though the characters are different because of the actors portraying them.
because that's what's so hard about adaptations is that you've got to, or you should honor and respect the original source material, but then you would want to bring your own spin on it / make whatever changes so that it's not like a beat for beat copy. Otherwise, play the existing story.
Yeah.
I think so far they've nailed that, like that through line.
Oh yeah.
That Venn diagram almost. So yeah.
I would 100% agree. So then we cut to them leaving the QZ. Let me scroll down a little bit. Come on, you butthole. So we we jump to them going to leave the QZ. Ellie and Joel and Tess make it to the safe house. Tess holds back Joel. They argue. Ellie finds a notebook and immediately deciphers. Is it Frank? Bill and Frank? Because Frank, I forget his partner's name. She immediately deciphers their code, kind of cueing us into that she is a feral kitten. Like, she's kind of smart. She can put it together really quick. And something that I wanted to post to you. So anyway, Joel immediately, straight out of the game, says, burn time. That's what I'm doing. You'll figure it out. And then Tess comes in. Everything's cleared. They're going to leave. And then the song plays. My question to the panel is, had the song actually played when Ellie said it was, or was it just her trying to figure out what the code was?
I think they played it because if things were really going down, they would send out multiple signals at multiple times.
Okay.
I also don't mean to be this person, but as a child that was born in the middle of the fucking Jesus Christ, as a child born in the middle of the apocalypse, how the fuck would she know "Wake Me Up Before You Go" by Wham without it having actually on the radio?
Will never
Nope.
die.
When she said it went "Wake Me Up Before You Go" or something like that. Like she was just saying the title, the lyrics, right?
She also, if you saw that giant book that had the code in it, was a billboard.
Billboard Top 100, yeah.
Top 100.
Yeah,
Like a giant
"Wake
book.
Me Up Before You Go" I feel like is a deep cut.
But that
I mean,
like
she's had to kill time. She's probably just flipping through random pages.
And this is something that's also kind of from the games and whatnot. They have found very, very, as hard as they could, ways to hold on to stuff from the past. Like, one of the reasons why I know in the game it's canonically 2013 when the outbreak happens is in part 2, you've seen people have taken PS3s and restored them to keep working, and people are using them in their
famously a Vita.
in their, oh yes, and there's somebody also playing a PS Vita. And Joel is singing songs that he found
Means life, Brett.
I'm like, man, where are the Xboxes?
They didn't have the rights
Honestly,
to
they
use them.
probably weren't allowed to put an Xbox in. Weren't they PlayStation exclusive?
Yeah.
Which is
for
also
sure,
why
yeah.
all the games you see that people have next to their PS3s are the Uncharted games because it's both Naughty Dog. But they
Hold
found
up.
ways to
I gotta
preserve
say
the
something.
culture.
I just thought about it in the games adaptation. The newest game system would have been the Wii U. So it's the best technology would have been, man, for home consoles.
Yeah. And that eShop would have been just an absolute killer back then, wouldn't it? God damn.
But yeah, so it's not that hard to think that one of Ellie's teacher at the military school was a big Wham fan back in the day and maybe hummed it or played it during gym class or some shit.
Yeah.
God, I don't like thinking about the military school either because, like, they never say this in the game. This is just my brain. But I'm like, children are definitely being sexually assaulted in that military school.
Jesus Christ.
Like, those children are being abused.
Like-
and, like, it's just like...
IRL, probably that would happen, but they never even hint
I
at
know
that in
they...
the game.
Sorry. Last Podcast on the Left has been doing a series on the troubled teen industry, and this is just where my brain is now, where I'm like, all boarding schools are, like, killing the kids. I don't fucking know, dude.
I look at the world of The Last of Us and I go, every bad thing is happening everywhere.
That too. Yeah.
Whether it's
like,
a
I don't
military
know.
school, a QZ, outside the QZ, people are getting diddled, people are getting killed. Not always in that order.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know, it's one of those... I know it's dark, but like my brain goes there where it's like, we're in the apocalypse. This is absolutely happening. Like,
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. But did you have any final words, Brett, or are you going to leave it at that?
Well, one I would hope, again, yeah, bad things, happen, but you would think with the apocalypse, that kind of stuff would happen less, just because there's more shit to worry about.
There's motherfuckers coming around the corner at any time.
Also, I don't know why the word diddle makes me laugh.
It is a very disarming way to say something very seriously, and it gets past
Sorry,
the
Jordan
YouTube
and I
censors.
say that to each other. That's the only word we use. I don't know why. We just like that's the only word
It's
we
like Chance
use.
is saying, it's a very nice way of putting a horrific act.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. All right, so they leave the room, they leave the QZ. Ellie's all they run across the guard pissing, and wouldn't you know, it's the same cop that was high on pain pills earlier. But he's running this by the book, and he starts to test all of them. And Ellie knows that she's gonna pop hot. You know, she's gonna piss hot. She's gonna fail her drug test, and she's gonna go to juvie. Dead. So anyway, as he's testing him, she whips around, stabs him in the leg. When faced with the situation, Joel jumps in front of this girl that he doesn't know to make sure that she doesn't get killed. They have an arguing match. Joel rushes him, takes him down, and then immediately, like, just batters his face into the ground. Ellie,
With his bare fucking hands.
Ellie seeing this does the fucking electric slide over to see him beating the shit out of him.
The meme where he's like,
Why is that the shot that they use? Like, is that the only one you had? Like,
No, they did that on purpose. Like, she's like, oh my
They
God,
think
this
about it
dude
in the
just killed
director's-
for me. Yeah.
But she looks a little too happy.
Yeah, for sure.
That's why I was like, this is the one you used because she looks. What did I write? Hang on. Because like this entire thing, I was first off, I thought they were just gonna shoot the guy, and I was like, oh, he's gonna die with his dick out. Then I thought Ellie just stabbed him in the dick, and then I was like, the way Ellie slid into frame is just to watch him beat this man to death was disturbing. It looked like she was enjoying watching it way too much.
Yeah, see, to me it wasn't the slide, it was the look on her face, and it was kind of like a, oh yeah, no, this is like a teenager who's like, I found out what I want to do when I'm older. Like, this is it. I found out everything I'm into. Like,
So
And
this
then
is
when they went to
I
her
think-
coverage.
I think
What?
there was a change from the game to the show here,
yes.
right? Because in the game, Ellie does that stab move, and then I can't remember if it's Joel or Tess. One of them just immediately just goes, takes advantage of the situation, and beats that cop to death, and then they start running away. Versus the parallel to Sarah with Ellie.
Yeah.
Again, softening Joel and tying like all of the different plot points more together in a streamlined manner, which is what you should probably do for television. So again, very smart, loved it. And then yeah, like you were talking about, Jordan, they say in the after show interview, like activating her or whatever, and knowing
Setting her on the path.
yeah,
that's
no,
her
like
MK
no,
Ultra activation code.
Yeah.
no spoilers, but where we know where she like goes in the totality of her story so far, because they'll probably do a part 3. Like you can kind of see like the origins of that being built right here. Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I think when the show gets to
literally-
that second season, it's going to be really interesting to look back at this moment. Go ahead, Alex. Sorry.
And that's something like after hearing like that the people creating the show like say that was her like activation moment, then like, okay, we're gonna get like part 2 in season 2, whatever you're gonna call it, like, and it's like, oh, that's good, they're gonna go there.
Oh yeah, they've talked about that. Like, Neil Druckmann doesn't want it going on forever because he thinks that's like the downfall of, like,
yeah, of
that they would
course.
run out of things to do. But that they are gonna do both games, but it's not gonna be like season 1 is part 1 and season 2 is part 2. He wants to explore more of what happened
In the
from
middle.
the end of the game to the beginning of part 2.
Oh,
I do think that buys them a little bit of time because I think part 3 they need to have out before they reach that in the show. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I have like a whole theory about them kind of taking as long as they need to make sure that the end of the story is told in the games well before it's shown in the show, because that's the one issue they had with their last biggest franchise, and I don't think they're about to make that mistake again. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off if you wanted to finish.
No, that was it. I think that's a good way to do it too, because like the other problem with not wanting to get into like that Game of Thrones territory where they ran out of source material is, unfortunately, zombie content is incredibly hard to write because it either has to end and everybody dies, or it ends and you start your brave new world. And like you can't drag that. Like that is fundamentally what went wrong with The Walking Dead, was it was so drawn out and they just ran out of like what was going to happen and had no plan of like how humanity was going to move forward. With this, they would have part 3. It's the end of this saga and all this stuff. And then HBO has talked about that they want to do, depending on how well this season does, they want to do spin-offs that Neil Druckmann was like, they would just explore completely different stories. Like nothing that had to do with Ellie, Joel,
Awesome.
Tommy, like none of you would
You
just
wanna
see
do, like,
other
an
parts of the
anthology
country.
series.
As long as
Yeah, like other parts of the country,
I'm
other
down.
parts of the world, like all that kind of stuff.
as long
which I
as
think
Neil
is really cool.
Druckmann's tied to it, I'm in. Like because I think kind of wrapping up this episode, they head into the city. Everybody who plays the games knows where that's
Saw
going.
Skyscraper.
Yeah, tune into episode 2 because that's where shit really is going to start popping off. I kind of want to get your guys' like, how many seasons would you like to see this go? Kind of like after this first episode, what are your thoughts? For me personally, I think it was as big of a hit as it was because it directly mirrored a story, or it adapted a story that I love and tweaked enough stuff to make it different, but the overarching narrative is still the same. And I think that's the hallmark of a good video game adaptation, now that we've seen a few, is the essence of the character and the things that happen to them, but maybe slightly different, is kind of like the way forward. And I think that's why a lot of people are having issues with like things like The Witcher show, for example, where they've changed a lot in characters' dynamics and characters' actions and stuff. And then you look at this show and kind of the path that they're headed, and I think it's a much brighter future for HBO's The Last of Us with having Neil Druckmann involved personally, or just having the creator involved in these types of projects in general.
It's also like it's a good choice because he's also said that like there are things you can explore really really well in video games, and there are things that you can explore better in film, and so you get those opportunities to really have like impactful things. I am on the train though that I feel like 5 seasons like is good. I
Yeah.
feel like 5
That
seasons
was
is the perfect
my
amount for
thought,
this
too.
kind of show.
4 or 5.
Like,
Yep.
yeah. I think it's plenty of time. Bella Ramsey will be able to grow up enough to at least do part 2 if part 3 is a thing that they're doing and it comes out and she's much older. They recast. House of the Dragons did it and nobody gave a shit. They did it fantastically.
Their
like,
casting directors are on fucking point over at HBO because those Alicents and the
Yeah.
fucking everybody looked the exact same.
looked fantastic. It
Yeah.
was great. And so like I feel like that's good. It doesn't drag anything out. It doesn't make it feel like, oh, they're adding fluff to something that didn't need it, but we also get to explore more sides of like Ellie's, like if they do seasons in between, we get to see more about Ellie realizing she's a lesbian and like all the shit with like Riley, who we get a brief mention about in this episode. Like I just think that's a good length for them for the Joel and Ellie saga within the Last of Us world.
Hell yeah. Jordan? Oh, go ahead, Brett. Or whoever. Take the wheel.
He looks more like Jesus than I do. So.
Canonically accurate Jesus. Go ahead.
Fair. So just one thing on the last scene that I do have to admit, I think was a little bit of a negative, was having those lines that Ellie says to Tessa and Joel, which are straight out of the game of, I got this 3 weeks ago. Nobody lasts more than a day. They're said almost in the background while Joel is like coming back from this Nom flashback he's having. And sorry, I don't know how to word it, but like, I think those lines are not even from an emotional standpoint, just from like what they're explaining is important, could so easily be lost the way. I think that the way they do it in the game, where it's focused on Ellie, she is saying it to both of us, so even though like you're still seeing the story through Joel's eyes, this is something being said to him, not something being said around him. I just wish that they would have changed. That's where I want to see the show go. I don't know how many seasons I want them to do between like part 1 and part 2 of the games, because all the important stuff in between we get in flashbacks of part 2, and those flashbacks are put in at very important points. Now, maybe they do kind of spoil the surprise a little bit by giving us those expanded flashbacks and seasons, and then when the season that is the adaptation of part 2 comes along, we are actually getting footage from the season that adapted those in betweens. Like, that is really interesting, but I don't want them to like overdo it in a way, because I also don't know, like, without getting into future spoilers, it does not sound like they have as much of a hectic life as they do between parts 1 and 2. So I don't necessarily know what the show would be.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brett.
Oh, yeah, I'm kind of with Lear, and in the sense that it could be like 5 seasons. Because based on where we end with this episode, I'm assuming they're going to wrap up the first game in this season.
Well, there was in the future thing, they show something from the end of the game. I don't know if you saw
Right.
that.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yeah. Anyway, continue.
I might have been like walking around or
No,
something.
this is going to be the entire first game. You are correct.
Yeah, and then I think season 2, or I think the second game could be built into 2 seasons if they pace it out right, / explore the larger world of The Last of Us, and then assuming 3 is going to be even more expansive, again, 2 seasons for that. So yeah, probably 4 or 5 seasons.
But Alec, what do you think?
And yeah, I'm kind of right there about 4 or 5 seasons, but like just talking about like Brett saying the splitting part 2 or the game of part 2 into 2 seasons, like that cliffhanger, that would be a hell of a cliffhanger to
Or
end.
is-
Like if
Like
that is going to be the cliffhanger.
or
Like I
season
don't
2 part A.
I don't mean to be for season 2. I don't mean to be this person. I'm not convinced we're gonna get the whole game in this season. I don't know if they're gonna do that. However, absolutely season 2 is going to be spread out. I'm imagining they're gonna put that DLC in season 2 in the beginning.
oh no,
And then
They have footage
was
from the end of this game, and like at the end of the episode, they have coming up on The Last of Us, and in that there is a scene from the end of the game. And then
Okay.
they also have scenes that show
From-
the Left Behind DLC and that whole situation. I think that they could touch on it to kind of show kind of what happens, but they don't actually go into it until season 2. Continue, Alex. Sorry.
but
Oh,
sorry.
anyway, yeah. Whoever was talking, go ahead.
yeah.
But season 2, I absolutely think the season 2 ending is going to be the scene from part 2. Like that is going to be how they end season 2, and that's going to be the cliffhanger, and that's going to be mean to people who have never
Oh, yeah.
experienced the game.
Yeah.
That's going to be real to like people like my parents, because I'm not going to fucking tell them. People like my
no.
parents, that's just going to be mean.
Yeah, I don't think that's where they end part. I don't think that's where they end.
I can tell
whatever
you
season.
from a writer's standpoint, it absolutely is. I guarantee you there wasn't even, I guarantee you the producers walked into the room and went, I don't care how you get there, I don't care what you do. Season 1 ends where the first game ended, season 2 ends at that scene, no arguments.
Oh, you're saying
Because it's the
specifically
best
season 2.
advertising.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought you
Specifically
meant-
season 2,
Sorry, I thought you
episode
meant-
10, season 2, episode 10 is going, the last 15 minutes are going to be that
Okay.
scene.
I thought you were
See-
talking about the season that would be adapting part 2. Now, again, no future spoilers, but if you know, you know. There is a good point in that game to do a season whatever part A, season whatever part B.
All right, so we are dangerously close getting into future spoilers. So right now, I'm going to remind you that this is Shared Screens. We've enjoyed having you. We are about to get into our future spoilers section where the gloves come off. We talk about the games in their entirety and what we think about the show is going to do going forward, which we've already kind of done. But if you want to hear us fully devolve, continue listening. If you haven't, we've appreciated your viewership. Like we said, we have a video podcast out right now where Brett reviews the Wii U, which he brought up in every video for the last 10 videos, and it's perfect. I really enjoyed it. It was nice listening to a podcast. Oh, we also have a Game of the Year podcast up as well. If you are sticking around, welcome. This is the Treehouse of Trust. Don't be spoiling shit in the comments. All right, so the scene you're talking about is the club scene, right? Like you're not talking
Yeah.
about when. Okay, so like I said,
Basically when
spoilers.
they meet in
Full
the theater.
yes, full spoilers.
The second they announced the show, I knew that
No.
season 2 is going to end with the golf club scene.
The golf club scene at the beginning of the second game. I'm telling you, this is the last when they killed Joel in the second game.
Yes, I was just going to say,
Yeah.
Leanne, did you want to leave for game spoilers or do you not care?
Here's the thing, I know all the big beats.
Okay.
Because while we were sitting here and talking about it, immediately after I said, I know I'm really attached to Tess and I can't remember if she's going to die, while somebody else was talking about something else, I remember exactly what happens to Tess, and like I was sitting bummed
Okay,
about it for like
I
5
didn't-
minutes.
I didn't want to ruin anything, but I remember seeing a meme years ago that said, Tess, I really like you, but I'm assuming there's a reason you're not on the cover.
Yeah, and like I have just the very first playthrough of this game I ever watched was Cinema Sins playing the game drunk. Fantastic viewership, highly recommend. There's a very serious moment in the game in which you just hear him yelling at his cat in the background.
Nice.
Um, and I was sitting here and I just heard his voice on the commentary of the scene and I was like, I knew it was gonna happen, but like shit.
So
So
go ahead, Alec.
I was just gonna say when I was saying the end for part 2, I wasn't thinking the Joel golf club scene. I was actually thinking the switch between Ellie and Abby.
Yes, that's what I thought we were getting at, and that's what I get what you're saying. Season 2 ends with Joel, being driven all 18 holes. We'll put it that way.
Ew, that makes it sound like they're never mind.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay. Keep going.
Then season 3 would assume season 3 is adapting part 2. Season 3 would have a part A and a part B to its season, and that little break would be the Abby to Ellie switch.
I think that would just be season 3, season 4.
Yeah, because this is the thing you get into with HBO Max doesn't do season A and season B because they only do like 10 episodes and the episodes are like an hour and a half long. It's just kind of how like they format their shows. Like
Go
ahead.
We have a real example with the Thrones books, right? Because Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons are parallel books that one of the books takes place in Westeros, the other one is in Essos. And so that would be the same thing now that I'm thinking about it with this game, is they would just pace out the duality throughout season 2 and 3.
That's what I would imagine, because if they take 3 seasons to do the second game, or like after the first game leading up and finishing the second game, they're going to at least take 2 seasons to do the third game. And I don't want that. I want this to, like, if I had my way, this would be a 3-season show. Keep it tight, keep it brief, keep it perfect. Like, the majority of the things that I love the most are one-offs. Bloodborne, Chernobyl, like that type of shit where like this, like the Bear, if the Bear ended where I know they're making a second season, but if it ended where it ended, I thought that would be a perfect show. Having said that, like, I if they push it past 5, people are going to lose interest. And like, I really feel like 4 or 5 is that sweet spot. Kind of reeling it back to the first season. Where do we think the second episode will go and kind of leave us off? I don't want to get too much into the kind of next few. Anyway, go ahead, Alec.
So if you heard like right at the end of the episode where they're kind of panning up to the skyscraper, you could hear clickers there. So we're going to be getting our first look at clickers.
So my question is, are they going to take the whole episode in the skyscraper and the like whole museum thing, and then they end the episode with the cliffhanger at the Capitol building, or do you think we make it to the Capitol building quicker than that?
I think.
Do we know the runtime for the next episode?
We don't, but I do think they took. I do think they took it extra long to make us attached to Sarah, to make us like really care about Joel in this episode. I think it's going to kind of pick up, because once we got past that first introduction and the 20 years thing passed, it was hook, line, and sinker. Boom, 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 boom.
Because what was the runtime of this episode without credits?
It was without credits. It was because the credits were 7 minutes long. Yeah, because the credits were like 7 minutes long, so it was like an hour 20-ish.
Okay.
Because I came into I had buffering issues, so I came in right when the credits popped up.
Because I'm trying to adapt from like Thrones and House of the Dragon, where the first episode's like an hour, and then the other ones are like 45 minutes or something like that. So I can't imagine every episode's gonna be an hour. That would.
No, I think 45 minutes to and up to an hour. I think they're gonna really play with that runtime, because this is an HBO Max show, right? Not HBO proper. Even though it'll play on both, like this is a streaming show, so it doesn't have to adhere to like the advertising break shit.
I believe so.
Okay, so I really see them playing. Like, I could see us getting to like episode 4 and it's 38 minutes. I could see episode 5 being 55 minutes, like that type of shit.
I also episode 10 is probably going to be like an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes.
100%.
Just because HBO loves a 2-hour finale.
So the scene I'm talking about is him in the hospital. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to talk about Salt Lake in these post things. I want to keep that kind of like, that's the thing we don't talk about is Salt Lake.
The line that Ellie says that you hear is just like, that literally gave me chills.
Yeah. It was perfect.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, if the episode's shorter, I could see the next episode being the museum thing, and do they go when they're in the subway system? Is that before or after the Capitol building?
Before they exit the subway, they kind of get a talking tour a little bit, and then more or less then they make it to the Capitol. It's like skyscraper, subway, then the museum. Am I getting that backwards? It might be museum then subway.
It's sometime during the skyscraper bit or museum bit, kind of in this area is where I stopped playing part 1 back when it came out.
Okay.
So
Because
There's 9 episodes.
Yes,
yeah,
10.
there's 9.
9.
There's 9.
Oh, I thought there was 10.
I think episode 2 ends with the Capitol building.
like Insight, that shot you see in the
Okay.
No.
in the coming weeks.
I think it's gonna be the test thing.
Mm-hmm.
Joel realized like, okay, fuck, now it's like my sole responsibility since Tess like is the initiator. Then I think 3 is gonna be the Bill stuff.
I think I'm with Brett just because I think Tess dying at the end of an episode is gonna be better for viewership
Another
than her
hook.
dying at the beginning of the 3rd episode.
Yeah, I definitely think that she'll at least die in the 2nd episode. I don't know if they'll escape in the 2nd episode. I feel like having her die and then the next 5 minutes be them getting out of the Capitol, and then the next episode cuts to them traveling to Bill's and getting to Bill's and kind of that unraveling. I think it gets a little hairy later in the season, like how fast they have to clip through stuff if they're going this slow at the beginning. I don't.
Is Bill
Go ahead.
Nick Offerman?
Yes.
Is Bill Nick Offerman? Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure I was thinking of the right, relationally the right person.
Yeah, I think Billstown is a whole episode. Like, I think that episode starts with them on the highway. Why didn't you stop for them? I've been on both sides of it. That whole thing. Majority of the episode is Billstown, ends with them.
That's after
leaving
Billstown, the highway thing.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Because that's when they get the
My
truck.
bad. Sorry. I think that's the end of what I think Billstown is a whole episode, with that being the end, and then from there, I think it's like the major points you have to hit are because the biggest difference I think we're going to get between this and the game in terms of adaptation is like they might go everywhere that we go to in the game, but they're not going to spend 20 minutes doing a firefight in every single location. As a game, you need that constant action to keep the person.
Listen,
Well, yeah,
I
that's the thing with
I
pacing.
need to see Joel throw a brick over his head while running.
I can see you getting something like that, but yeah, I mean, there are things where like pacing. Hello, I see you. The pacing things are difficult when you're adapting a video game because, like, yeah, you're not gonna spend in a video game. You may spend 30 minutes in a location where in a television show you're done in 5. Like, we've done everything we had to do here. And so I think to avoid adding in unfortunate like filler, they'll be moving a little bit quicker.
So
Should have just made this like an anime and give us just an entire episode that's a firefight.
Okay, will we see Joel kill somebody, a person or a clicker with a beer bottle, a brick, and then like a baseball bat with like shrapnel wrapped around it?
the shrapnel thing
Of
for sure.
course.
He's gonna use a bottle as a distraction at some point. I feel like he's gonna hit somebody over the head with the brick. If we're playing Marry
Yeah.
Fuck Kill, how he's gonna use these things.
No, I do think that we are gonna get like all the cool combos that the game wants you to use shown. Like I think we're gonna get something used as a distraction.
the wood plank.
We're
God, I
definitely
hope we
gonna
get the wood plank.
a melee weapon, and then I think later in the season we're gonna get a melee weapon with fucking nails through it.
Will he
I-
carry
chance-
a ladder and carry it for 10 minutes?
Yes,
Trying to figure out where to place it down. What-
it would be really funny. Like I get that this is supposed to be like really realistic, but it would be really funny if sometimes when Pedro Pascal moves, he's just kind of moving like an animation.
Shimmying over, and then he just
yeah.
drops the board and it
Talking
lands
about-
perfect.
Talking about game mechanics, I just thought of a point. It's like in the game, Ellie can't swim, so that's going to be a whole big plot point at some point. I'm assuming during the
Yeah.
season.
I really hope so.
Oh God, yeah. There's gonna be some deep, not literally deep water, but like deep water in that you can't see what's in.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Wet.
creepy as
There's gonna
fuck.
be so many wet things.
So
Oh,
I
yeah.
have a little bit of
World is
trivia that I want to end on. Really quick, going around the table. Any final thoughts? Alec, go.
I just want to say I didn't mention this at the beginning because I forgot, but during the episode, I just remembered when that theme song kicked on, and you hear the Last of Us theme even though it's not a headbanger song, I was headbanging along to this because I'm like, come
Yeah.
on. They got the actual theme and like him to come back and do the score. Like,
It slapped. It gave me
Shouts out-
goose pimples for sure.
yeah.
And like HBO
exactly.
Max has talked about how they want to do more of the like Game of Thrones sequel like title sequences where it's like sick as fuck, and I was like, yeah, this is why, because this is the coolest fucking opening I've ever seen.
The fucking fungus making America. Oh, so
All the little
beautiful.
mushrooms, yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Brett, what are you?
yeah.
Or, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
this episode was awesome. I know I haven't been too talkative too much just because it is past midnight here as we're recording on the East Coast. But this was absolutely fell in love with the show and cannot wait for next Sunday. So
Hell yeah. Brett, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I loved it. And man, like, I'm gonna make another comparison. Like, you can already tell the difference between this show and the freaking Halo show. Like,
Yeah.
because I am like a diehard Xbox guy. Like, I primarily game on Xbox. I grew up with the Xbox, system and everything, brand and all that. And man, seeing that show, like the difference between having like the auteur director involved with it versus whatever they did with the Halo show, like just you can see the wide chasm of the difference in quality. And yeah, it hurts a little bit.
well, that was more like PlayStation is actually involved with this. Like they had PlayStation Studios like from like all those credits right in the beginning.
I think my 343 was involved a little bit with the Halo show. I can't remember because that's the thing, was like a lot of the people at 343 like left in the past year because of like yeah. But yeah, it was like, okay, you can clearly see like Neil Druckmann being involved with this versus like whatever they did with Halo, like the massive quality difference in both shows.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I would definitely agree. I'm sorry. I hope somebody respects Halo at some point in time. Jordan, what are your final thoughts?
I knew what was going to happen in this episode. I had never been more excited to go home and watch a kid die today. Like, I was just so
God
hyped
damn
for this
it.
episode.
Fuck.
But no, like, I think, like, this is doing what I think I've always said about video game adaptations, so I won't get on my high horse here real quick. I'll just say it, like, pretty quick. Video game adaptations work best when, one, it's a story-based game and not a game that you are mainly there for the combat, like Halo, or there for the open world, like something like a GTA or Breath of the Wild. That's not a knock to those as games. That is just a knock as how limited those adaptations can be. And I personally think that the point of adaptations is to experience the story again, but it's easier to throw on a movie than it is to invest the time in the game again. And so that's why, like, I'm enjoying this and did not like Uncharted, is because that is not Uncharted 1, but this is The Last of Us 1.
Hell yeah. Liren, any final thoughts?
I hate that all HBO Max shows are great. Like, I said this on our other podcast that we were
I mean,
recording
not
today.
Velma.
Well, yeah, I mean, Velma looks fucking
Bro.
Well, actually.
terrible, but their live action shows, like, I'm such a fucking slave to HBO now. Like, it's just it's so good. And I will leave on one more funny thing about my parents is I realized I should probably warn them that a child dies in the pilot before they watched it. And so I texted them, I was like, I'm just gonna warn you right now, The Last of Us is dark. And I had to chat with my mom and my dad, and my mom just goes, do any animals die? And I was like, no. And my dad goes, so it's not like I Am Legend where I have to watch a dog die for 5 minutes? I was like, no, you're good. And they were like, we'll be fine then. It's your standard. I'm like, oh no, it's just a 16-year-old. And you're like, that's cool, as long as I don't, see.
She's even younger.
I know. Like, as long as I don't see this dog die. And then when fucking Mercy came on screen, I was like, I swear to Christ. I swear to Christ, if the thing they changed from the game is this fucking dog, and now I'm wrong.
I was really stoked we didn't see that dog go. I'm not gonna lie.
same.
I got real worried because you hear the dog yip and you never see it in the game, and it broke my heart.
Yeah.
The final little bit of trivia is something that I realized when I was playing through the remastered recently. And that first Stringer trailer we got was a very old school twangy song. Kind of sounded like the dude was recording it into a pop can, like pre-Elvis days, right? And playing through the game, I get to a section where Ellie pops in a cassette tape, and it's old-timey music. And that scene that Jordan was talking about, where he says, "I've been on both sides," when the car is flipped upside down, or the truck is flipped upside down, and there's just music playing, and Joel is like getting his senses back. That's the song that plays when they got ambushed. And that attention to detail, where it's like a song from a very important part of the game put into the first trailer, I think is very indicative of what we should expect from the show. And now, like, that is even bolstered more after watching this first episode, and I'm so stoked to get to experience it. Go ahead, Alec.
I was just gonna say this honestly made me want to go back to the game, like pick up my save from where I left off and continue that.
Honestly, it's
Play
worth
an
it.
hour each week.
Yeah.
Just keep up with
Right?
the game. Yeah.
Just
I
play.
just also want to extend a heartfelt thank you to whoever picked "Tomorrow" by Avril Lavigne to be the song that Sarah turned on while making breakfast, because that is from her first album, Let Go, which was like my emo teenage like soundtrack, and that played. I had like a war flashback. That song started. I was like, I fucking know this. It's also the saddest song ever written, but
Leanne's
I
eyes
really-
glaze over.
being that writer, like, it's just, I really appreciate that. Was very much some fucking middle school 2003 and I loved it.
Fuck yeah. Hell yeah. The attention to detail. We love to see it. Alrighty, team. It was good catching up with you. It was good talking The Last of Us. We can't wait to talk to you again next week. Make sure to look for this Monday mornings. What time does this post again, Alec? On Monday mornings? Bright and early?
Usually we do 10 a.m. Eastern.
Dope. 10 a.m. Eastern. That is 7 a.m. Pacific time if you're on the East or West Coast. And yeah, we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.